Hey, welcome to Horns Up. I'm Animesh.
And I'm Peter.
And yes, we have with us
Ravi.
Hey Ravi. Okay, yes, when Metallica 72 seasons was announced, Peter and I had promised that we'd bring you an episode devoted to it, but we felt like it was too much work and not and frankly, I don't know, we just didn't feel excited by like it felt like a chore. So we decided to have some fun and like by a happy stroke of coincidence or luck, Megadeth's last album, The Sick, the Dying, and the Dead, which we actually did do a album review of in some way, or like a first impressions of on Horns Up, which is saying something already, right? We found that it had 12 songs, and that 72 seasons has 12 songs. So I thought, hey, why not do a versus? Because what what's a better question to ask any metalhead for opinions on than Megadeth versus Metallica? And you have their latest albums, both released in 2023, right? No,
20. That was
Megadeth was 22.
22.
Fuck
September.
it. That just goes to show the level of excitement we have about this. Shouldn't we be more excited? I mean, come on, it's Megadeth versus Metallica. Shouldn't we be more excited? I don't know.
Okay.
Yeah, I'd like to ask you guys a question. So you guys were excited enough to put out a quick half-an-hour segment as soon as the first two songs dropped.
No, we were fishing for content.
Okay. Either way, be that as it may, I think if I remember right, Peter, you were more positively predisposed towards the album than Animesh was, or was it the other way around?
No, I was, because like for the
Peter
first
was,
time,
yeah.
And okay, wait, before you say this, right? I have to make a full confession. This is actually the first time I've listened to a full Megadeth album since Saint Anger.
You mean a full Metallica album?
A full Metallica album or full Megadeth album?
Sorry, full Metallica album. I haven't heard a fucking full Metallica album since Saint Anger. So like when Animesh said sure, I was like, fuck, I do remember why I stopped listening to the albums other than the singles, right?
Okay.
And I think, Ravi, you're right. If I'm jogging my memory, I was, because I was like, and that's the thing with, I think, I can't remember the sequence of the singles. But like the first single, I was like,
the first one was Lux Eterna.
Yeah.
And the second one was Screaming Suicide. And you guys did the episode shortly after Screaming Suicide dropped.
Correct.
Yeah. I think Screaming Suicide gave me more hope. But it gave me hope.
So my question to you guys is, before we of course get into the verses, does the album kind of live up to your initial impressions of it, both positive and negative, or was there anything at all that surprised you?
Okay, let me tackle this. This
please.
is full Bharas mode going to happen as such. So before the singles were released, I had decent expectations from a Metallica album because I actually enjoyed Hardwired. I felt Hardwired was a big return to form. But then the singles started releasing, and as I remember chronicling on our episode on which we spoke about Lux Eterna, it just felt flat. I was still waiting for some of the magic. And the album, frankly, doesn't induce any sort of magic at all. Except for James. I enjoyed all of James' parts largely.
Yeah.
That's my one-line summary of the 72 seasons listening experience.
So, Peter, what about you? You started off more enthusiastic out of the gate.
Yeah, and then it just basically, how do I say? It's like I'd compare it to when I do these like 10K runs. The first kilometer, I'm like, fuck yes, I'm doing this. By the 8th or 9th kilometer, I'm like, why the fuck do I sign up for this shit? and by the end, I'm like, okay, come on, just power through. You have like the last kilometer. It felt
That's
like
a beautiful analogy.
Yeah, so in the Lux Eterna context, you move from full speed to nothing.
Yeah, man. I was just like, and like literally, because we're doing this on a Sunday, right? I was listening to the album last night, and I swear I made notes, And I think at like 4th or 5th song, I was like, if I start taking notes, all I'm going to be like, fuck these guys. Why are they wasting their time? Why do they waste my time? You know, that kind of thing. So I'm like, let me just sleep over this and like
Yeah, I mean,
be a little like where my ears are not like just saturated with other stuff
yeah,
that
I
I listen
agree.
to. So I
Yeah,
think like that's one of the things I've realized, honestly, right? It's just like the mood I'm in, the context I'm listening to a lot of this stuff. So I'm like, okay, but I don't think context or even mood helped with this album. And I'm being like very nice over here.
yeah. Okay, I actually have a feeling, something rather strange is going to happen here, which is that I'm going to end up uh, speaking up for the album a lot more than either of you,
That's
because
good.
Yeah.
I
It'll,
actually, I mean, okay, let me put it this way. I've not heard a full Metallica album since the Black Album. I heard Load and
Oh.
I heard Out of My Mind and Into My Head, and I was like, fuck, more of this shit. And I didn't bother checking Reload. I just heard some song from it called Mama Said, which sounded like they were going full Garth Brooks or something.
yep.
It sounded really, really awful. Then, of course, there was quite possibly the worst song they've ever written, I Disappear, at which point you kind of wish they'd just take their own advice. Uh, After that, of course, there was Saint Anger, didn't bother. Death Magnetic, thought it was absolutely terrible. Hardwired, really liked the title track, lost interest with every other Signal release. And then we're back to, I mean, or rather, we're at 72 seasons. And of course, prepping for this episode was one of the reasons why I decided to hear it back to back multiple times.
That's the thing,
But
right? Like, okay, wait. Quick question. Sorry,
sure,
sorry. Quick question. If we weren't doing this as a thing to do, would we have heard the entire album?
I don't think so. Speaking for myself, no,
Yeah, I
just
and this is
there's
coming
just
from a Metallica fan. Even I don't
too
think
much
so.
more interesting music out
Exactly.
there.
Yeah, and this is like I've
Old,
heard Death
new.
Magnetic in entirety too.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
I
like
mean,
About Death
this.
Magnetic, there's actually this really funny story. I'm sorry, we're digressing here. But I was sitting at Hard Rock Cafe and they were playing some song. And a friend and I were like, for the life of us, what the hell is this band? What band is this? So my friend's like, could it be Metallica? I'm like, no, 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 the singing's not as irritating as Metallica. It's got to be something else. Then I was like, what the fuck is this solo? It's like
You were
someone's trying to
listening to
play.
All Nightmare Long, weren't
Yeah,
you?
it's like someone's trying to play Highway Star, but really, really badly. So I said, I'm going to have to go and ask the DJ what this is. So I went up to the console, long haired guy, black t shirt and everything. And I'm like, hey, what band is this? And the guy gives me this. I can't believe you're asking me this fucking question. Look. So I said, no, seriously, can you tell me which band this is? He's like, it's Metallica, man. So yeah, that was my level of disconnection from Metallica. I couldn't recognize them when I heard the song playing by them.
Hmm. Okay, so yeah, we're doing a versus. It's Metallica versus Megadeth. It's 72 seasons versus the sick, ellipsis, the dying, ellipsis, and the dead, no ellipsis.
Exclamation mark.
Exclamation mark.
Yeah.
Period? No, only exclamation mark.
Yeah.
So it's the mighty Four Horsemen versus Dave Mustaine and his band of ever shifting horsemen. For what it's worth, the sick, the dying, and the dead. We've actually done a whole review of it, so you can dig into the archives and already, how the album stacked up for us when it was initially released, because we did it
In
around the
fact,
time of release itself.
I
We
think
all
I like
had
it more
good
now.
views. Yeah, we all had good views about it. So yeah, that's kind of like the context set in terms of tastes. You guys know what you're listening into. Metallica fanboys, you can shut the episode off. Or as Ravi said, he's going to,
Or maybe not.
or
Yeah.
maybe not, who knows, right?
or like egg animation me.
Fuck it, let's just get into it. Okay, so this is what we'll
Okay,
do.
first songs.
We'll go into it song by song. And then we'll just go into evaluating certain aspects of each album. So I've drawn up almost like a 20-point parameter, which includes 12 songs. So it's 12 songs plus 8 more parameters of sorts. We'll be
Okay.
quick, okay? Also, for the first time
Sure.
on Horns Up Versus, you may actually get to hear a little bit of a snippet of each of the songs because,
Okay.
frankly, this is major disclaimer. Even though I've heard 72 Seasons 4 times in entirety, I barely remember which song sounded like which song is what song.
Oh,
Like,
this I
the
think Ravi and I can help you because I think Ravi kind of spoiled it for me a bit, but okay, I can't unhear some stuff. But go ahead.
yeah,
Yeah.
like I need the initial riff or something to help me remember which song it is.
Ha ha.
Yeah.
Sure.
Not that way for Megadeth, weirdly enough.
Hmm.
Okay, let's get into it. Songs number one, 72 Seasons versus the Sick, the Dying, and the Dead. 72 Seasons starts off like this. Okay, cool. Now I remember. I picked the Sick, the Dying, and the Dead. It's just a better song.
Duh.
Okay, I'll tell you why. You have so much expectation, you have so much history with these bands, at least we do, right? And the moment you start listening to The Sick, the Dying, and the Dead, you immediately realize it's a Megadeth song. You immediately know you like the riffs are gnarly, the everything is punchier. You have so many tempo variations, you have so many different sections. 72 Seasons feels like I know I've been using this a lot recently, but it feels like Chat GPT generative AI version of Metallica from the load and reload era specifically.
Yeah, which is not what you want, right? Like,
It's not what I want, at least. Maybe for somebody who really like load and reload 72 Seasons, the song works better as an intro song.
I mean, I'm gonna just put this out there. I'm saying this before two of you. Every song I can literally be like, ये part काट सकते थे, this part is unnecessary. Like I went to the extent I was like, why the fuck does this song exist? Like I was like
Okay.
that. Like what's the point of this song? So I feel like at every point there's going to be, and I want to say this now itself, is like I was just like, why did they just like are they either they were like, you know what, there's no QC or whatever done, or they're like, let's do whatever the fuck we want. People will anyway buy the album, buy merch, whatever. But yeah, I just found like a lot of the tracks, including this one, just like really bloated. Like at some point you're just like, it could have ended like 1 or 2 minutes ago, right?
Ravi, are you
Okay.
with us?
No. I actually
Good.
love 72 Seasons. I think
Okay.
as a title track and as the track that kind of kicks off the album, it does so in a great way. I think with slightly gnarlier guitars, this could actually be a song by Exodus or something like that. It's definitely got a lot of the entire thrash dynamic in it. The really fast intro, a kind of slow version of that riff, and then, sudden speed ups. But again, it is reflective of everything that is wrong with this album too, because it's definitely overlong. The pre-chorus happens way too many freaking times. I have no idea why every single song on this album has a pre-chorus. It is completely unnecessary. But the pre-choruses just add to the bloat of the album.
Yeah.
Having said that, I actually think this is a little more memorable for me than the Sick, the Dying, and the Dead title track, and to the point where I was actually humming the chorus to myself a few times just after hearing it once. So yeah, it's definitely the better song for me. But while at the same time, holding the seeds to a lot of what is wrong with the rest of the album, in my opinion.
Fair assessment. Alrighty. It's good that we have contrarian views. Okay, let's get into songs number two. Megadeth has Life in Hell and Metallica has Shadows Follow.
Chasing, yeah, Shadows Follow. I'm
Right.
always chasing shadows.
So this is Life in Hell. And this is Shadows Follow.
when I'm looking at my notes, it's exactly that bridge pre-chorus bit, which is just like so weak. You're just like, is this Metallica?
Ravi.
Oh, Life and Hell wipes the floor with Shadows. I mean, basically, it's just a much better song on every single parameter. And, it's absolutely a complete barn buster. And it's the point where you start feeling really optimistic about the sick, the dying, and the dead because, there's two songs in so far, and both have been extremely good.
Life in Hell lives up to the Megadeth tag. It actually does better than the Sick, the Dying, and the Dead for me because the Sick, the Dying, and the Dead has that very weird middle
The
slow
acoustic
part,
part.
the acoustic
Yeah.
part, right? And that suddenly, like if you're not expecting it or if you've not like it may throw you off kilter, but Life in Hell is consistent thrash throughout. Shadows Follow just doesn't follow. It should like I'm questioning why this song needed to be there, which is weird. But yeah, so my vote goes to Life in Hell too. Peter, what about you?
Yeah, same man. I mean, like, and I'm adding this because this should have been in the first song. But Ravi kind of nailed it when he said, like, there's so much. It's literally like, that also goes back to the point you made about the whole chat GPT or AI, right? Because halfway through the album, you literally can see the formula that Metallica has used. Like that entire first minute or so, like kind of, for lack of a better word, jammy part that they actually get into the song. Then the solo will come like 75% or so into the album. You'll just like keep repeating the pre-chorus or the bridge, whatever. And like, you're just like, but dude, you're Metallica. Matlab, like, what's happening? Why are you just like...
Were Metallica hanging out a lot with Steve Harris?
Actually, a point I was kind of thinking of saving for the end. That, now that most of the albums are effectively self-produced, you heard what the band really wanted you to hear, and on quite a few occasions, that's pretty awful.
Yeah. I mean, like,
So essentially, there's no adults in the room anymore.
I mean, like, and no surprises, right? I mean, Life in Hell gets my vote also. And I must say, for this album, right, when I'm re-looking back at it, re-listening, I have a far more appreciation for it because I feel like when we did that first impression bit, we were also like,
yeah,
equally...
we definitely had our saviors of metal, or jaded with metal caps on.
Yeah, but now when I'm listening to it, I'm like, hey, I can still listen to it. Like, I don't mind listening to it. I don't mind. I remember some of the parts,
which is nice, no? Like, I mean, this completely validates Dave Mustaine because essentially, if you've listened to 72 seasons and then you listen to The Sick, the Dying, and the Dead, you immediately go like, fuck, this is such a better metal album.
Yeah.
Full spoilers given away, by the way.
Yeah, just out of curiosity, how did you guys do this? Did you hear one album end to end completely and then the other album? Because I alternated songs.
Same.
I did no. So first I did alternating albums, and then I tried to do alternating songs, but then I didn't reach till the end for alternating songs.
I think that's the problem. I think you kind of nailed it on the head. I mean, like, for me, doing that became so much like, it's like literally apples to apple, right? Comparing, and it becomes like, oh boy.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Life in Hell gets all 3 votes. Moving on to songs number 3, Screaming Suicide versus Night Stalkers featuring Ice-T.
No freaking contest. Night Stalkers wipes the floor with Screaming Suicide. It's just
absolutely. For me too.
It's just so much more compositionally interesting, and it's almost like Megadeth are getting in touch with some of the most interesting parts of their past on this song. You have the entire false end, and then it kind of picks up again, and you have some absolutely face-melting shred. And Screaming Suicide was inherently not as strong a song, but it also gets points cut for shamelessly ripping off Speed King by Deep Purple in the solo. The da 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 part.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Anyone else have anything to say about this matchup?
The only thing I'm going to say is I think this is one of the few songs of the album Screaming Suicide I can listen to again, probably. I mean, I wasn't like, when I was listening to it, I'm like, theek hai. If it plays in the background, I'm not going to be like stopping it. When we first spoke about it in Jan, was still early reactions in there. Like, it's still like, especially when you go through the album, you realize, this one is still one of those few songs. That's why they put it out as a single and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's all.
To me, I think this is the strongest song on the album. And that's just, yeah, it's weird when something like a Screaming Suicide, which isn't even a, like, to me, it's pop rock Metallica rather than actual Metallica. But yeah,
I'm going to save my
at
comments
least
when that song
it's harmonic and melodic.
No, I have
Okay,
a
cool.
better one, but I'll
You
save
have a
it for
better
when
one.
that
Awesome.
when
Okay,
the song
cool.
comes.
Let's get into songs number 4. Sleepwalk My Life Away versus Dogs of Chernobyl.
Ravi, I'm gonna take this. When you
Cool.
said the enter Sandman thing, I just couldn't, like, when the song
It's
was
Re-Enter
playing,
Sandman.
I was just like, oh fuck, I can't not listen to this now. Listening to Enter Sandman, man, it's just like, I mean, like, let's be honest. First, it's like, why the fuck are you guys so lazy? and it's like, second, it's like, okay, wait, if it works, but it's not working again, and I don't know. I mean, I think it's no surprises what my vote goes for.
No, dogs for me too. That's Dogs of Chernobyl. I remember Dogs of Chernobyl. I don't remember. Sleepwalk My Life Away is the one that begins with the bass intro, right?
Why do you play, then we can just.
Only you will remember bass.
Yeah, see, I was right. It begins with the bass intro. Yeah.
But skip forward to the re-enter Metallica, re-enter Sandman part.
Sandman bit. Yeah. Say your prayers, little one.
So you know how so if you've produced television, you would know that you can't actually, like, you need to license songs or copyright songs to be able to use them for your production, right? In India, for a lot of Bollywood music, what they do is they take a popular song and then somebody covers it by altering the verse, or altering the riff, or altering something, so that it kind of sort of sounds like the popular song, but then it actually isn't. This is exactly that.
And Metallica are doing it to themselves.
Which I don't know. So like, I get that point of view to some degree, but I mean, come on, you wouldn't expect Metallica to sound like Rage Against the Machine, for lack of a better word, or something of that sort. I don't know, actually. Fuck it. Sometimes I really question why Metallica does things the way Metallica does things. But
I mean, okay, wait.
Just it's like this. If Iron Maiden can write the similar chord progression and use it till date, but still manage to make it feel genuine to some degree, or make it work, why can't Metallica do that? Or are we being too overtly critical or expecting too much from a band? If this is what they want to write, let them write it, no?
Yeah.
No. So my only counter to this is, do it for any other song, but not like your most famous song, which, like, fucking everybody who has no idea of metal, or let alone Metallica, knows Enter Sandman. I mean, come on, that's like easily the top 5 songs that anyone kind of recommends, right, when it comes to metal. So, like, maybe that's my only thing. Ravi, you had a point.
Yeah, so actually, I don't mind this song, Sleepwalk My Life Away. I don't think it beats Dogs of Chernobyl, because Dogs of Chernobyl, I think, is one of the strongest songs in Megadeth's 40-year old discography. I mean, I think it's an amazing song. But at the same time, I think this shows the glimmers of my theory of the album, which is that essentially, actually, there was this point when I think Phil Collins had released Both Sides. I know this is a bit of a weird segue, but bear with me. And JP from Gin and Biscuitonic had said, this sounds like a Funeral Doom album by somebody who doesn't know what Funeral Doom is, which, apart from being hilarious, was very appropriate. So I think what Metallica have tried to do here, or rather have accidentally done here, is record a stoner metal album. Only they're still doing stoner metal with the tools that they have as Metallica. Because if you think about Sleepwalk My Life Away as a stoner doom, or rather stoner metal song, it's extremely kind of apropos to that style of music, especially towards the end where they have this lumbering slow riff repeating over and over, and it's really, really hypnotic, and it builds a fairly massive kind of groove. So I like the song, but definitely not as much as Dogs of Chernobyl.
Okay, fantastic. No, I'll buy that point actually. Metallica doing stoner, but I'd like to. I don't know if now is the best time to bring it up, but to me, it seemed that after Death Magnetic, there was this point that Metallica wanted to prove that, hey, fuck you guys, you can't laugh at us for Saint Anger, Lulu, and Death Magnetic. So we'll show you what we are made of, and we'll go back to our roots. And that's what prompted Hardwired. And then Hardwired landed pretty well and did those things. So Metallica were like, okay, cool. Basically, our first 4 albums, we can make stuff similar to that. So why not try and make albums reminiscent of our 90s? So they took Black, Load and Reload and heard it a million times and basically went and wrote whatever, Unload, Download, Superload. Like this album, if 72 Seasons had released as the 3rd version of Load, it would have done better. It would have stuck the landing.
Yeah, they should have called it Download as a kind of, nudge, nudge, wink, wink to the events that were happening around then.
Yeah, right? No, but this is...
Ellie will be like, fuck you, try downloading this album or something.
This is actually a good survey question, right? If anybody... And I think I'm gonna ask this on Reddit, because I was reading a thread on Reddit, which was essentially asking the question, hey, how many of you is 72 Seasons the first Metallica album? And how do you then evaluate it? So most of the first-time listeners of Metallica album, which happens to be 72 Seasons, enjoyed the album a lot. And most of the people who've grown up with 80s Metallica are about the album. But a lot of the people whose first Metallica was Load, Reload are okay with the album.
I mean, that's an interesting...
Yeah.
I mean, like, let's be honest, right? And I know I'm going to be snarky or whatever here, but it's like, if your expectations are so low, then like how much lower can they get?
No, but
there, right? That's the way I'd look at it.
No, but Peter, I think what we're talking about specifically here is the Master of Puppets via Stranger Things crowd. These are people who probably don't listen to this kind of music at all, and then they hear, this song, or rather the songs on 72 Seasons, and it's kind of like Master of Puppets, but without being as abrasive as Master of Puppets. I think the fact that Master of Puppets has been used so many times and in so many contexts has slightly stripped it from what an abrasive and atypical popular song it actually is. And, compare Master of Puppets to even everything else on the Stranger Things soundtrack, where you had Play With Me by Extreme and Tarzan Boy by Baltimora and stuff like that. So this was a song that these people kind of associated with a badass moment, which was the entire climax of Stranger Things. And then the same album that has done that badass song, or rather the same band that's done that badass song, puts out a new album, and you listen to it and you like it because it's kind of like that sort of music. And who knows, maybe parts of this will be spliced and diced for TikTok. I mean, I'm sure that's happening as we speak, but maybe that's the context to listen to this album with, which also kind of explains its slightly disjoint quantity, or rather quality. It's ties back again to your entire idea of an album being created by Chat GPT, and it's almost like, okay, you know what? This segment's gonna be good for reels. Somebody pumping iron. Yeah. They take this bit.
I'm gonna wait for a couple of tracks because I was watching some of the stuff that Metallica did. And our friend LU had a comment, so I'll wait for a couple of tracks because it's more appropriate to talk about it then.
All right. So can I cue in Sacrifice?
Yup, you can. Songs number 5, Sacrifice versus You Must Burn.
Fucking excellent song. Oh my god. I'd forgotten how good this was.
Yeah.
It's completely goosebumpingly fantastic, and it's coming towards the middle of the album. The part where, Mustaine typically starts throwing in boring songs like Architecture of Aggression, songs that you're like, okay, this is okay. But this is such a banger, and it's coming in at song 5. I would have started an album with this if I had such a song in my kitty. I mean, it's incredible. And it is up against You Must Burn, aka Sadder But Truer. Because it's basically the resurrected sad but true riff shambling about for another, go.
Man, I had only one word for You Must Burn. I was just bored. This was that track I talked about. I was like, wait, why is this on the album kind of thing? I mean, again, I know I'm being harsh. Maybe I'll listen to it in a couple of months. I hope I don't think it's boring, but...
yeah, maybe they were going for You Must Bore and it's like a title.
But I completely agree with you on the Sacrifice, man. I was like, fuck. And I don't know, when I'm listening back to the Megadeth album, right? You just feel like Mustaine has channeled, I don't know,
whatever life threw at him, yeah.
Yeah,
everything that life
all of that, and he's like, Yele bhenchod. It's literally like that. You think I still can't do it? Watch this. He's just done that, man. Because all the guitars on the Megadeth album just are fucking, it has this renewed energy of sorts, right? And
I have a theory on this, but I'll save it for the end of the for the time we're done. Anyway, we're kind of almost at the halfway mark, but Animesh, tell us about Sacrifice and You Must Burn.
Sacrifice wins over You Must Burn. I don't remember You Must Burn at all.
Good.
Mark, 1 second. Which is You Must Burn? Avenged Sevenfold asking, getting told that, hey, you need to produce a Metallica song.
Correct. Fuck, actually, it's a good one.
That's my take on it. Oh, fuck. Okay, moving on. Songs number 6, Lux Eterna versus Junkie.
Okay.
Both are singable.
Yeah. For me, this was what I was saying. I'll hold back. This is rock and rollica. This is just like rock and roll in there. I mean, I was okay with the song when it came out in November, but the part I was saying, right? I was watching Howard Stern's interview Metallica because they were on Metallica were on Howard Stern's show.
Yeah.
And just before they went into playing Lux Eterna, Lars talks about how when they first released the song, he's like, we just dropped it. In the history of Metallica, we've never done it. You know how he kind of goes on his whole thing. And he's
Metallica, we never.
Yeah. And then he talks about how he saw in the cute videos of cover bands, and there was a Damage Inc. band in New Zealand, I think, and someone else in Japan, how they have learned and covered the song. And he's like, we were like, oh, we haven't played it live or learned it since we put it in the did it in the studio. And it also brought to mind like a gig that I attended towards the end of the year. Animesh, I think we spoke about it, where
Yeah.
Scepter 3 or 3.0, whatever you want to call it, they were playing Lux Eterna already. And like,
Aren't they all the way up to Scepter 7 by now? Anyway, that's a
but I'm like,
different discussion for a different episode.
there's two things about that song, right? And like, while he took it as, yeah, these guys are learning it all, I'm like, dude, because it's that simple. Like, everyone's figured it out already before you guys actually have taken it out on tour and are already like probably making money off this song or playing gigs in there.
Yeah. So, to my mind, Lux Eterna is like what would happen if you told a 60-year-old man to write Hit the Lights. So essentially, Ulrich had not been so surprised that people
now.
that people are learning it, because if you know how to play Hit the Lights, you're already halfway there. You just play it a lot slower.
Ravi, James Hetfield is 59 years old.
Oh,
He'll turn 60 this year.
oh boy.
Yeah.
Oh, fuck.
But I actually prefer Lux Eterna to Junkie. I think Junkie was one of the filler songs on this album.
Yeah.
The solos were the highlights. Nothing else really registered for me. Also, the slightly irritating vocal effects were a little off-putting. I think Lux Eterna wins this round. It's also one of the reasonable length songs. And, it's pre-chorus, which I think is Full Speed or Nothing, is not bad. So, yeah. Lux Eterna wins this round for me.
Oddly enough, it wins the round for me too. Only because Junkie is far more annoying than Lux Eterna is.
Junkie, fuck, dude. Like, it's where sometimes I just wonder, like, what would it take to like get Megadeth to get like, I don't know, a guest vocalist or something? Junkie, like, fuck, dude. Like, I take rock and rollika. That's fine for me.
Super. First win for 72 seasons. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Halfway
First
point.
all-round win.
First all-round win. Yeah. Let's see if that continues. Songs number 7, Crown of Barbed Wire versus Psychopathy. I don't know. Is this an actual matchup?
Yeah,
I don't think
Psychopathy is
so.
just an intro to the next song.
Yeah.
So shall we even vote on this one, or like does automatically Crown of Barbed Wire just get the votes here?
And no, I still think that Psychopathy is
Better.
more interesting than Crown of Barbed Wire. Mainly because it.
Hey, you took the words out of my mouth. I was lying low because I've been too much of a hater on this episode. So
because it just shows the importance of being concise. You can have a song that's barely a minute long, but which has a bit of an atmosphere and sets up the next song well. That's a perfectly good thing to do. You don't need to go for like 5 minutes playing the same riff over and over and having an elaborate pre-chorus and a chorus and then say, Zyada diya to acha hi rahega. No. Sometimes, and I hate the fact that I'm saying this, less is more. And the clash between Psychopathy and this other song, which name that I've already forgotten, Crown of Barbed Wire.
You could fit almost 5 Psychopathies into one Crown of Barbed Wire.
Yeah. But, anyway, I'll tell you about what I liked about this in the later segment.
So, thank you for saying that, because yes, my vote then goes to Psychopathy too. Peter, are you voting for Crown of Barbed Wire?
No, man. I mean, like I was like, this was the first song where I'm like, I don't have to think or vote on this. Like, bus, it's good.
Okay, cool.
I'm good.
Excellent. Let's move on to songs number 8, Chasing Light on 72 Seasons versus Killing Time on The Sick, the Dying, and the Dead.
Come on. Yeah, so isn't it obvious by now?
Yeah. So Chasing Light is basically the reharvester of sorrow, and Killing Time wins.
Okay. I mean, at this point, I'm beginning to like finally see a pattern of sorts. I don't know, in Metallica's song positioning, etc. Because now it feels like almost every song is basically them trying to ask the question, hey, are we still okay? Is it okay for us to chase light? Is it okay if darkness had a sun? Are we too far gone? Am I just looking at myself in a room of mirrors? I'm over contemplating those kind of
No, it
elements while
actually
listening to
is
a
very,
song.
very consistent with the lyrics. I actually went through the lyrics, but of course, we'll just do that
Yeah.
when we wrap up. So, yeah.
No,
Okay.
and like even the solo, right, in Chasing Light, literally came when I was like, fuck, I'm almost done with the song. And I'm like, okay, chalo, I'll listen to at least this part. But yeah, man, for me, it's Killing Time also.
Plus,
Okay.
Killing Time's outro has some of the best guitar solos on the
Yeah.
entire album. So,
Okay, cool. Songs number 9. If Darkness Had a Sun
oh my God.
versus Soldier On.
You cannot put any song. I mean, if you could take something from the first 8 Metallica albums, and I think they'd have a hard time going up against Soldier On because it's got such an amazing chorus.
Yeah.
I mean, it's probably the catchiest chorus Megadeth ever wrote, and they just hit it out of the park with this one. When you hear it the first time, it just sticks in your head, and not in a bad way. It's such a fantastic sing-along chorus. I mean, if we'd had somebody like Dickinson singing this, it would have been like out of this world. But even Mustaine does a none too shabby job, and it frankly wipes the floor with If Darkness Had a Sun.
Superbly put. I'm just doing +1. Agreed.
Yeah. Also, If Darkness Had a Sun, I had kind of in my notes put down as an even shorter straw because it basically takes a lot of the elements from Shortest Straw and kind of fucks them up.
And see, at this point, you really see the pattern. I mean, like for me, I was just getting annoyed because I'm like, I know what's coming next. Abhi pata hai, ye aane wala hai. But going back to what you're saying, you get a far more appreciation for Soldier On. I mean, like, if I'm not mistaken, Soldier On was one of the first or second singles that Megadeth put out in that entire campaign that they did, which I was talking about in the last episode we did about it in September. And fuck, like that was, I think, one of the songs that I was like, fuck, like need to go check out this album when it's out and all of that. So many months later, Soldier On still holds up, man.
Yeah, my vote goes to Soldier On as well. I've marked that. Yes, I have. Let's move on to the last 3 songs or the last 3 verses. Songs number 10, Too Far Gone from 72 Seasons versus Cellubitant on
Too Far Gone doesn't stand a freaking chance.
Cellubitant is doing something cool, man.
Yeah, it was, I think, the part which we talked about when we were doing the Sick, the Dying, and the Dead.
Yeah.
It was a Mustaine getting out of his comfort zone.
It's like if songs like Cellubitant had been on Risk, like that's an actual, that would be cool.
Yeah, it was amazing. So Cellubitant wins this round by, I don't
easily.
know.
Yep.
Yeah.
+1, +2. Just let's do this.
Superb. Moving into songs number 11, Room of Mirrors from 72 Seasons versus Mission to Mars on The Sick, the Dying, and the Dead. I don't remember Room of Mirrors. I'm going to play that.
Okay, play it. Then I'll.
It's a slightly up-tempo song.
I don't remember this song.
Same.
It gets a little faster.
Okay, cool. Yeah. This I remember now. And this was Mission to Mars, by the way. Oh, fuck. This is such a fucking cool song. Yeah, I remember this one.
Yeah. I think
I went shopping yesterday and I had The Sick, the Dying, and the Dead playing. And this song came on and immediately I felt like I was in a game and about to start shooting people. Like it made me feel like John Wick in a way. which is weird, but yeah.
Yeah.
Mission to Mars, clearly.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, despite the fact that Mission to Mars has a slightly goofy outro, which I think
Yeah.
That
lets it down.
I mean, that was the thing. Like, I found that part annoying.
Oh no,
But
it
then,
doesn't. It's I think
I mean, to me, it
that's
was
okay.
annoying.
The outro is the real deal breaker for me on Mission to Mars, but frankly, it's up against Room of Mirrors, and it beats Room of Mirrors
Yeah.
hands down.
Clearly, Metallica were not standing in a room of mirrors. Just saying.
No, they were. Okay, but they were only standing in a room of their 90s selves, later 90s selves after the hair had been cut. Okay, cool. Moving on to the last song, Inamorata versus We'll Be Back. Okay, for me, We'll Be Back takes it because it completely proves the point that Mustaine must have had in mind when slotting it in as the last song of the album, which is that, bitches, we are here. We'll be back. We're going to be coming back with this same ferocity again. And Inamorata, to like, I'm a bit surprised at how much love this song is getting online because people are comparing this to The Outlaw Torn. People are comparing this to Minus Human. People are comparing this to Fixer. And I'm like, dudes, what the fuck are you guys listening to? Because Inamorata it sounds like it, the initial riff and the middle riff and the third riff, they all sound like fourth or fifth riff choices. They don't even sound like the very first best riff choice, which hooks you into the song or something of that sort. Boring.
Well,
Peter?
why is all my
Oh, okay.
question.
No,
So,
okay, so first question. Inamorata, did anyone else get the
I love
vibe of
Inamorata. I really,
okay,
really
so
like this
explain
song.
that to me. Does it actually hold up in the same
So,
conversation as Outlaw Torn?
so let me take this step by step. The first step is Inamorata versus We'll Be Back. We'll Be Back wins because it's an
Wins.
amazing
Cool.
song. So that's out of the way. But Inamorata is the freaking highlight of this album, in my opinion.
That's what I don't get. Why is it the highlight?
Basically, it is a stoner metal song. It doesn't know that it's a stoner metal song, but it is a stoner metal song. The riffs are the kind of riffs that, Sleep or Shrinebuilder or whoever would have been like proud to come up with. And the way they kind of have this roiling, repetitive kind of thing, it's stoner metal with actual good singing. You realize how rare that is. Most stoner metal has some, dude who can barely sing and was like, or something like that. And it sounds like shit. And this has been the trend since Q's all the way down to the bands that we have these days. But it's stoner metal with good singing, and it's a refreshing, fantastic experience. And if you kind of get into the lyrics, and if you get into the entire lyrics of this album, it's essentially almost like Hetfield trying, maybe sometimes successfully, maybe sometimes unsuccessfully, to exorcise his personal demons. All of the songs, other than Lux Eterna, which is the one for the fans kind of songs, are essentially about this guy's emotional state of being and his struggles with it and his thoughts of suicide and his questioning his own relevance. And the last one is, of course, I'm guessing, about the breakdown of his relationship with his wife. And viewed with that additional bit of context, it's just an amazing song.
Okay.
I absolutely love this.
But
and yeah,
both still go to We'll Be Back.
Riffs, if you view the riffs from a stoner metal point of view, and if you think about this with a lot more energetic drumming and those vaguely oriental sounding solos that a lot of the better stoner metal bands play, it would have been an amazing song. I'd love to hear a full-blown stoner metal reinterpretation of Inamorata, but even as it stands, it's absolutely excellent. And
So
Hetfield sings his
basically,
ass off on it.
Basically, the rest of the band fails to live up. I mean, apart from Trujillo, who isn't
Yeah,
like, yeah. But yeah, I see that's the thing, right? Okay, wait 1 second. Let's finish this out and then we can vent about this.
yeah.
Or at least I can vent about that. Uh I'm choosing We'll Be Back too. Peter,
I'm of course in the same
choosing
boat.
We'll Be Back too. Okay,
Yeah.
cool. So that wraps up the 12 songs. As of now, 72 Seasons has 4 points. The Sick, the Dying, and the Dead has 32 points. Cool. Ravi, since you spoke about the lyrics, let's discuss the lyrical aspect.
Yeah,
I actually enjoyed the lyrics on 72 Seasons, even though at sometimes they got very childish
yeah.
in
See,
terms of the repetition. Sorry, in terms of the fuck, what's the word I'm looking for? Begins with R. Rhyming, yeah, in terms of the
yeah,
rhyming schemes. Um, but Megadeth like didn't do a bad job with lyrics on Sick, the Dying, and
yeah,
the Dead either. Both of them pretty much hold true to their whatever concepts or context in that manner.
yeah.
Metallica is much more
In a
personal.
sense, I think both of them were quite personal albums.
Yeah.
If you ask me, the personal songs in The Sixth, The Dying, and the Dead are, of course, the title cut. While it's ostensibly about plague, it's not too much of a stretch to think about it being about COVID. And considering the fact that Mustaine was struggling with
Yeah.
cancer, The Sick, The Dying, and the Dead was obviously something that was really top of mind for him. Also, The Dogs of Chernobyl, which essentially, goes into this entire thing about radiation, and it essentially said that the other place where most people ordinarily experience radiation is in chemotherapy, which of course he had to go through. So, in that sense, there are a lot of personal callbacks on both the albums. Only 72 Seasons is entirely personal, or rather,
Mm-hmm.
almost entirely personal, other than Lux Eterna. Every single song is essentially about uh, him struggling with where he is at the moment, and I don't know, maybe the meaninglessness of success and all of that.
Yeah. I'm actually okay for lyrics to give both of them a point each because I don't see one really winning over the other.
Yeah,
Are you okay? Are you guys okay with that too?
yeah, I'm
Yeah,
okay with
yeah.
that.
Yeah. Awesome. Cool. Let's move on to riffs and riffs. I only mean riffs, rhythms. I don't mean the solos.
Oh,
Oh,
Megadeth, undoubtedly.
yeah,
I
yeah.
mean, come on.
I don't think there was a debate on that.
Yeah.
Cool. Okay, cool. Solos. Megadeth clearly.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
here's an interesting kind of theory. I mean, at least I hope it's interesting that I have, which is that if you think about it, here's where Dave Mustaine, being a bit of a jerk and a notoriously difficult person to work with, has actually worked to its advantage, because every 5 years he gets the infusion of fresh talent into the band. As a result, there are people who are capable of implementing his most, out there ideas, even if he is perhaps not at the forefront of implementing those ideas in terms of leads and in terms of song structures and stuff like that. Plus, I think Dirk and Kiko did contribute with the writing of, some of The Sick, the Dying, and the Dead. And just that addition of fresh, younger talent, people who've, grown up in a different era, have absorbed different musical influences, really, really helps Megadeth at this stage. Whereas Metallica are stuck with their essentially two-member or one-person songwriting thing, which is basically, Hetfield himself. Hammett absolutely does not give a shit about playing good guitar solos anymore. And he's perhaps stopped giving a shit entirely after And Justice for All. There's that famous clip on the recording of the solo of Unforgiven where Bob Rock is constantly kicking his ass to play a good solo, and he's just trying to get away with some workaday crap. So, that is the level of involvement that you need to have to get a good solo out of Kirk Hammett. And now that that Metallica are a band that can sell millions of copies just putting any old thing out, he isn't bothering anymore either.
Kirk Hammett recently did an interview with, I think, Guitar.
Oh yeah, Ultimate Guitar.
Total
He was
Guitar.
actually
With Total Guitar, in which he
yeah.
says it drives me nuts having to play that fucking guitar solo in Master of Puppets every time. People love that guitar solo and they come to see that, and that's fine. For that part of a career, all those solos are locked in. I don't view them as solos anymore. They are parts. I'm bored of it, but it's exciting for people to hear. I know I'm going to play, and now while talking about 72 seasons, I know I'm going to play something completely different live. That's my thing these days. And if people don't like it, that's just tough. But I can offer something a lot different than what people hear on the album. And I can offer something different every time you see Metallica. You're not going to hear carbon copy versions of the album. What? You're supposed to be the solo player for the world's greatest heavy metal band. And you're essentially telling me that this isn't the best version of myself on the record. Maybe records don't sell anymore. Maybe nobody gives a flying fuck about records and it's all about the live show. But nobody's tweeting out or live videoing or TikToking or whatever your live solos and saying this is Kirk Hammett and Kirk Hammett can do this.
Yeah, I mean, I think Kirk Hammett was really lucky in that sense. I mean, it's the classic luck by chance kind of thing. Right place, right time, right attitude, I'm guessing, since he didn't get fired from Metallica. Unlike,
or maybe right attitude, right? Like, what if Kirk Hammett had been, somebody who really wanted to, showcase his guitar skills and everything of that sort.
No, but I honestly think that, all of us owe Lars Ulrich an apology for multiple things. First of all, he was right about Napster, in the sense that maybe not specifically Napster, but the entire devaluing of music once it became a commodity. He was bang on about that. Second, he was bang on about the fact that Kirk should not be playing guitar solos. This album would have been better if Kirk had not played any guitar solos on it, if they just repeated the riffs with a bit more innovative drumming, and if they'd cut down on the pre-choruses and the overall length. So yeah, I mean, I think Kirk is the weakest link here, and he deserves to get fired, but of course he won't be.
Okay, I don't know if Kirk is the weakest. No, actually, yeah, he is the weakest link, because let's move to talking about the drums.
This is so unfair. Come on. You can't compare Lars to a guy who's like Lars's energetic offspring. I mean, have you heard the fills of the sick, the dying, and the dead?
Exactly, right? It's so much more. It's just so much more. It does justice to the art of drumming. Lars is playing halftime, like, I don't know, maybe on 60% of the entire album. Okay, cool. Foreground conclusion, right?
Yeah.
Okay. All points go to Megadeth there. Bass, here's me asking, does anybody really listen to the bass? Or these two, did it matter?
I think the bass was really good on 72 seasons. It was mixed very high. You could hear the lines clearly. But Robert has essentially caught the general malaise of it's the classic thing where, you have an employee who's hired into an organization because he's doing really well. And then he moves into this monolithic organization and he realizes that, oh, you know what, here I don't need to put in any effort at all. So either Rob has completely given up on, on playing bass in a compositional sense, because if you listen to the stuff he did on Infectious Grooves and Suicidal Tendencies, actually groundbreaking. Here he's just happy to coast because everyone else is also happy to coast. And they're going to, if Rob had put in 10x more effort, they'd have sold just as many copies. So it really doesn't matter.
So I'm viewing the bass on this two on both these albums as kind of similar, because essentially what you're doing is you're coming, like, both bassists came in to fundamentally songs that were already in place, in my opinion, and were just asked to put down bass tracks.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But to
without
be f-
any room for improvisation or anything of that sort. And I don't think both of them also had any space of saying that, okay, you know what, if we change this here, or if I do this little bit more here, then it'll help the song. So for me, both the bass players are on a similar level.
I'd still
I mean,
say
just
DiGiorgio does a better
yeah.
job on the Sick, the Dying, and the Dead than.
I mean, he basically had to re-record it, whereas at
Yeah,
least, huh. So
like
that
Yeah,
even
that's
as
but
far
a
as,
the
yeah,
bass sounds nicer. You have some nice singing lines along those songs, and it's good.
okay, cool.
Whereas with this, you can say, oh, you know what? At least Rob's got along well enough with the rest of the band for them to have not buried the bass entirely in the mix. Win for Rob.
I don't think they can do that now. Like in this day and
no,
age of social media and stuff, I really don't think Metallica
No, but
can
I honestly think
do
they
that.
can do anything at this point, other than maybe something like Lulu, and people won't give a damn. They'll just, be
Yeah.
first day buyer and stuff like that. Which brings me back to my larger point about Metallica, which is that Metallica, by being the biggest metal band on earth, are, and I think I made a Facebook post about this, are kind of like Stephen King when it comes to horror.
Hmm.
Is Stephen King the best horror writer in the world? Nowhere near close. But he is the most popular, and there's a whole bunch of people who read horror only if it's by Stephen King. Similarly, a bunch of people who buy metal only if it's by Metallica, for whatever reason. So these are people who come into it with no context of where the genre is at the moment, no context of the new exciting things that have been happening in it. And they buy it, and it's reminiscent enough with what they know about it for them to be happy or not entirely dissatisfied. Unless, of course, there's a
Not entirely
curveball like,
dissatisfied. Yep.
yeah, unless there's a curveball like Lulu thrown at them, in which case everyone is like, what the fuck is this? And or what have I paid my money for?
Okay. Um. Cool.
also,
So
sorry,
Sorry, Peter, go on.
one more thing I want to add, right, is like, and I'm just using Saint Anger as an example. Like back then when Saint Anger released, you, or at least everyone who's around my age, if you managed to buy a copy, you would have to save up for it.
mhm.
So literally at some point you were like, since I've spent so much money, I'm going to look at like, the best of this and make the most of it, and kind of like say that, at least my money
Yeah.
was well spent, right? Today, 20 years later, you don't have to. There's so much music, and you're not buying CDs. You're not like, what's the most? You've got like an Apple music subscription or a Spotify subscription. Do a cursory listen, maybe go through a playlist, see where the latest Metallica song, and you're done with, right? You're not like kind of left with it where you're like, oh my God. Like,
Yeah, the
Mhm.
commitment is less.
yeah,
Yeah,
the
that's a great
commitment is
point.
less, right? So I think like a lot of that has changed. I'd say even in the last 5 to 7 years, not even like
Yeah.
20 years, right? And let's be honest, the next best, or say if you look at it from an opportunity cost point of view, a lot of what everyone I was reading online, and that was one of the things, like I was very hesitant to listen to the album, is like everyone's complaining about bloat, and everyone's like, hey, if you really want to listen to a thrash metal album, why don't you listen to the new Overkill?
Exactly.
Which if you think about it, will never be as a band will never be as big as Metallica, but is still fucking churning out music. And I don't know, have either of you heard the new Overkill album?
You Overkill, frankly. I think even Overkill are kind of coasting now.
Fair. Okay.
Yeah,
One thing that was really impressive on the Overkill was Billy's voice, man. Fuck.
yeah. I mean,
Sounds
see,
great.
they've held up. The bass by Dee Verney is still fantastic. The singing is still good. It's just that the songs aren't particularly interesting. They're not the best songs that Overkill have ever written.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So I'm actually going to check out the Overkill album today, right after we're done with this, because I was like, okay, I'm not going to like what do you say, get swayed away and be like, nahi, nahi, yehi album hai, kind of thing.
All right. Okay. So speaking of vocals, what do you guys think about the vocals
Oh,
on
fuck.
72 Seasons versus The Sick, the Dying, and the Dead?
Yeah,
Both have signature styles,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, but Hetfield wipes the floor with Mustaine.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, he does.
I mean,
Sings
like,
his
He does.
ass off on this album, and he just sounds so freaking good. And
He
I don't
sounds
know.
re-energized, man.
Yeah. So basically, like I said, the Black Album was the last Metallica album that I heard from start to end. And one of the things that annoyed me a lot about that album and the subsequent album, which was basically Load, was the mannerisms, the yeahs and all of that, which just got on my nerves. And there's very, very little of those mannerisms. It's just plain, very, very from the heart kind of singing for most part, and it's absolutely exceptional.
Hmm.
Yeah, I mean, like, I always wonder, and that this is one of those games I'd love to play if I get like the stem recordings of
Mhm.
Megadeth, right? Is just like replace the vocals and see what they'd actually sound like, or just maybe like Megadeth instrumental, what it would be like, right?
Yeah,
Megadeth
so-
instrumental would be nice.
Yeah, so
Mhm.
not just what's on the album, because I think on the album they kind of processed Mustaine's voice to sound a lot better than it actually
Oh.
sounds these days. But even if you think about their live performances, James still got it. He just
Yep.
delivers.
Actually, wait, is
night
that
after
one
night.
of your pointers, Animesh? Live?
No, live. No. I'm keeping
Okay,
it strictly to album
Yeah.
at the moment.
Okay, so
But yeah.
But so I think it's a great point to bring, because that's one of the things I would have to say. And I think all three of us have seen Megadeth live, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Metallica,
No, I haven't.
let's be honest, right? As much as we're fucking thrashing Metallica on this and whatever we're saying, knowing their track record, they anyway play maximum 2 to 3 songs of their latest album on thing. And
Mhm.
having seen Megadeth, there's no fucking way, if given an opportunity, same price, same proximity, everything, I'm watching another Megadeth gig over a Metallica gig. I'm watching
I'm
Metallica.
picking Megadeth any day of the week.
No,
I mean,
dude.
basically the instrumentation is just
Maybe with, I don't know. I
so
saw them.
top
I saw them.
notch.
What?
It's
When did you see them?
who Megadeth.
Yeah.
Megadeth I've seen as many times as I could, which is I think twice so far.
But have you seen them with the latest lineup?
Yes, when they played Bombay.
Okay.
Pico had just joined when they played Bombay, and they were
So
amazing.
yeah, because I watched them with their Canadian lineup, as I say, in 2012, and I was just like, fuck, no, man.
Oh,
Not doing that. Not doing that. Animesh, did you watch Metallica or not?
No, I didn't.
Who would you pick? Who would you pick? Megadeth
watch
or
live?
Metallica? Yeah.
At the moment, because I've seen Megadeth live, I would still want to go and watch Metallica live. Definitely.
Hmm.
But that's
With me, I wouldn't.
more of a tick mark list than this thing. Like given a choice, if both bands were playing at the same time, I would still go for a Metallica gig. I don't know how I would feel after the Metallica gig. Like, would I be really excited and go up in the first row and whatever, and basically be that kid who's never seen a band, but really wanted to see a band like for the first time ever? I don't think so.
No, I made my peace with that. I'm fucking old when it comes to that. I can't do that shit anymore, dude. Sound console is my spot now.
Yeah, sound console will be my spot. I'll enjoy. I'll if they have a good t-shirt design, I'll buy a t-shirt too.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. I'll add the live bit in as well. So what were the votes for the live one?
I said Metallica, you said Metallica, Ravi said Megadeth.
Megadeth.
Lovely. Cool. Let's talk about album production.
Yeah, sure. Album production, I think this is a really good sounding Metallica album. I mean, everything is really clear and upfront. And it generally sounds a lot more polished than Hardwired did to me. But then, of course, I didn't hear Hardwired with an equal degree of
Detail.
interest. I think this one, Sick also had great production. It was slightly rougher around the edges, slightly thrashier. It was less mainstream sounding than the Metallica album, in my opinion. I prefer the Sick sound.
I prefer Megadeth over Metallica over here because I feel Metallica rounded off everything a bit and polished it off. It has that smear of slickness to it, whereas Megadeth manages to retain the rawness. Like, I think in my mind, it's coming back to the 90s Metallica versus the 80s Metallica. If you enjoyed 90s Metallica, you'd enjoy how 72 Seasons sounds. If you enjoyed 80s Metallica, you might not enjoy how 72 Seasons sound. Whereas for Megadeth, if you enjoyed, practically almost all of Megadeth, except for the duds along the way, like Risk, etc., you'd enjoy the Megadeth album regardless of in terms of how it sounds. So for me, Megadeth wins this one.
Sure.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I'm okay with both because at the end of the day, like both of you have said, it's your reference point that you've had, which is your first album you heard, right? And just for now, I'd say Megadeth. I mean,
okay, cool. Quickly, artwork.
For the Metallica artwork,
artwork,
I think it's much more in sync with the theme of the thing, which is essentially the first 18 years of your life, and it's very, very specific to, I think, the sort of 18 years of the members of Metallica, because if you notice the sort of toys that there is a hoop toy and things like that, which was, popular with people who were children in the 60s and the 70s. Not so much later on when, play evolved and it became more about action figures and stuff like that. So, in the charred remains, there's a lot of nostalgic toys and things like that. And I think that ties very, very well into the concept of the, album. I think the 6 cover sort of undersold the album. I thought it was just a very generic
terrible
cover.
artwork. Terrible artwork, terrible typography. Peter, what about you?
Same, man. I mean, like,
so Metallica artwork wins. Lovely. Quickly, which band marketed their albums better?
Metallica, because they have a much bigger budget.
Media spends win over creativity once again.
Theatrical screenings for albums. I mean, come on. That's a contest that Megadeth can't even participate in.
Mustaine went on Joe Rogan and fucking cried about what Metallica. So he's basically indirectly doing marketing. Every time he opens his mouth, he markets for Metallica. So I think that's the trump card Metallica have.
All right. And finally, overall album experience, etc.
Sick wins hands down.
Yeah.
So to total that up, Metallica 72 Seasons on all counts gets a total of 20 points versus Megadeth's The Sick, The Dying, and The Dead, which gets a total of whopping 52 points. It's double.
Wow.
No questions over here. Megadeth is the better band when you compare the latest albums. Dave Mustaine, use this episode and play it for Metallica. Please. Here is the proof. Here is the validation. We need to send this to Dave Mustaine. Come on. We'll probably Dave. If
we have called him a bit of a jerk in the episode, so he might not be so.
All's well that ends well. The Sick, The Dying, and The Dead. Clearly smearing the floor with 72 Seasons.
So he's on Cameo, just saying, guys.
Let's make it happen. If you guys want to contribute to our Cameo fund, you know where to reach out to us. We are at honsupod.com or on Twitter at honsupod. As always, I'm on Twitter at Asmoani.
I'm at Trend Crusher.
I'm the Ravi B, but then I hardly post about music on Twitter, so you'd be wasting your time following me anyway.
But you can. Now, for the first time ever, Ravi's actually declared his Twitter address on Horns-Up. So thank you for that.
All right.
Thank you guys. Horns-Up.
Horns-Up.
Bye.